Hello, Sangha, as they are figuring this out. How are you today? Okay, Maopai. Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Dear community, I'm Brother Phap. Nice to meet all of you. I just want to do an intro because I do feel like I'm a guest in this space. I feel like in Upper Hamlet, I feel more at home, but I am starting to feel at home here. And I've been invited to offer the last Dharma Talk for Lower Hamlet community. I haven't prepared. It's been a very busy day, starting from this morning and yesterday too. So to help me, what do you want to hear? What do you want me to talk about? I will do my best. Thai story. That's one thread. Here. Fear. Fear about what? Being lonely. That's a good friend of mine. Okay. Commitment. Woo. Ongoing practice, that one. How to stay true. How do you transform sexual energy into love? How to transform Mara? How do you sit with Mara? How to stand up with courage and compassion. How something about justice in a world of injustice. Say that. This is going to be 3 hours, guys. What is peace?
How to free ourselves.
Okay, that's the last one. How to free ourselves.
How to free ourselves.
Say again? Can you multitask mindfully? Haha. I'm going to answer that right now. Our teacher said one action at a time, but it could be multiple actions. Fear of trust. Oh my goodness. Okay, you know what? This is going to be many podcast episodes to come, so fear of trust. Okay. Can you something from a billionaire? Can you steal from a billionaire? Wow, I've never tried that one.
How can you support people you love who may have gone through trauma and may have unconscious?
Okay. How can you support those who are going through trauma and
It may have become like unconscious abuse.
and it may have become unconscious abuse. That's just let me.
Sister Changang story.
Sister Changkong's story. She has a book. Learning True Love. That's a really good one, by the way. Okay. Trauma.
Bringing children to this planet.
Bringing children into this planet, and you're asking a monk. Okay, I got you. Loving our parents when they can't love us back the way we need. Bell master, you gotta invite the bell, or the questions will keep coming. Okay. We have a full menu, so this can be a 10-course meal. Let us, first of all, just enjoy breathing together. Listen to the sound of the bell. Dear respected teacher, dear beloved community, today is August the 15th in the year 2025. We are in our last day of our retreat, the power of love. I think I want to start with love. I hope that during this retreat, we have been able to somewhat identify what love can mean for us. What is the source of love that is present in us? The Buddha himself and many of our ancestral teachers has shared with us that love is a universal energy, and it's a source of energy that is very powerful, which have become a lot of the main teachings in many spiritual tradition, in many religion, in many wisdom, ancestral transmission. And it all comes back to this highest foundation of asking, what is love? And we have many poets, we have many artists that make songs about it. And most of, maybe 80% of our music is all about love. So the whole path of the practice of Buddhism is first and foremost learning to understand our own suffering. Understanding is another language of love. Love is, as a true Buddhist, I will say this: love without understanding is not love. And love, we have to reclaim the meaning of love to each and every one of us. Not the love that is presented to us by television, by movies, by the media, by influencers, and so on. But we have to be able to rediscover and to reclaim what love is for us. And I can only share from my own experience. And the first foundation of mindfulness is to come home to the body within us and learning to accept our wholeness. And our wholeness means everything. It means all of the mud. It means all of the potentials. It means all of the goodness that we can identify right now. And all of the potential of the evil that is also inside of us. Us as a practitioner, mindfulness is this lens, is this light for us to shine within as well as shine without. Shining in is quite important though, because the Buddha has also shared that our mind generates and creates the world. So what we see, what we think, what we speak, they're all ingredients to paint our reality and many others' reality. And inside of us, we have sexual energy. And it's totally normal. I feel very blessed finding a teacher like Tai. I grew up not wanting to be a monk, never had the idea of becoming a monk. Didn't like Buddhism, didn't like the temples. I was allergic to the temples because it was very devotional. It was very intense in many ways. It was crowded. People were fainting. It's not one incense stick, it's hundreds of incense. And I'm being told, pray for good grade, pray for a good job, pray for a good relationship. And I started off with like, okay, I'll give it a try. But 1 + 1 didn't equal 2. So I abandoned it. And I abandoned it internally. And that was a part of me was abandoning my own culture. And coming to Plum Village and meeting this community, I don't know what your feelings are when you see us monastics, but for me, it was like, whoa, they exist. And they're young. And they speak my language. Not English, but like day-to-day language. And I started to feel like there's something here that is more profound than the title Buddhism. And that was kindness. That was this energy of unconditional love. I don't know if you touched it. I've touched it in my Dharma sharing group. We're all strangers at the very beginning, right? We sit in our circle. My guard was up. Everyone's guard was up. We sang some songs. Everybody got scared. It was so cringy. Is this a cult? I'm like, lean into it. Sing it with your chest. And then we start to introduce ourselves. We start to see the power of listening, the power of presence. And then it gives us an opportunity to learn to surrender a little bit. Surrender to the unknown. And to unlearn what we think we know. Because what we think we know is, I'm with strangers, is dangerous, I'm scared, I don't want them to know me. But what we're unlearning in this Dharma, in this retreat, is it's not about the other person learning about you. It's what you are learning about yourself. It is what you're able to articulate in your present moment with words that you can say, this is what I'm feeling right now. And it's okay to say, this is scary. To listen to the silence, to listen to the maras that are in our minds. Mara here, it represents, it's a very Buddhist term, but it represents the unwholesomeness. And there are many types of maras. And one of it is wanting to give up, wanting to leave. There's a few in my group, wasn't sure if they would stay for the whole retreat. And I said, speak it, say it, so we can hear it. And then also ask ourselves, what is it, but you're here, why did you come here? There must have been something more profound than maybe just the thought that we carried at the beginning, and now that we're here. And I went through all of this when I was in Plum Village for my first retreats. And the power of arriving into our steps, arriving into our uneasiness, arriving to become a friend with our own noise within us. And all of this awareness and all of this experiencing it offered me a mirror to myself. And long story short, I wanted to become a monk. And I became a monk. And I was only 14 years old at that time. And you know, Tai, he was our teacher, but he was a very sensitive human being. He's very sensitive from his journey as a human being, from the wars, from the injustice that he was witnessing every day. You could numb yourself from all of that, but as a monk, he chose not to numb himself from that. And he asked himself, how can I go deeper into suffering? And when I was young, there was one day I was called into his hut. When the Zen master calls anybody into the hut, it's very scary. You think, what have you done wrong? Why is the teacher calling you in separately? And I came into the hut with a lot of fear. And we sat down at the dining table. It's where I record the podcast now. And he very skillfully started to speak to me about evolution in the human body, because I was only 14 years old. He was like, Phap, you're at a time where you're going to experience a lot of change. You're going to have feelings and emotions that are going to be new to you. And you may start to discover your sexual energy. So he was giving me the puberty talk. And when I realized that, all of my guard went down. And I had a lot of reaction in that moment. The first reaction was, oh, Tai, you're so sweet. And oh, Tai, I've learned all of this already in public school. If anything, my mind is too toxic. I need to unlearn more from that, from everything that I have been exposed to. I came in with a lot of mud, and Tai thought that I was a very innocent child. And I said, Tai, I'm not that innocent. I was introduced to pornography by my cousins very early. And I learned to objectify women already. I was like, Tai, the bees and the birds, I know it. I think I know it. But what was very sweet in that moment was a teacher like Tai, who for me is my Vietnamese hero, and like somebody who is bringing peace to the world. I'm like, and here he is talking about puberty. How beautiful, how down to earth we should always be, and how we should interact with one another, no matter who we all become on this planet. We may have some fame, we may have some recognition, and all of those are just titles. But where true connection and true love is when we meet each other in the present moment. And the way we train as monastic in sexual energy is not to deny it. And this is it's an ongoing process, because we all carry ideas. What is a holy life? What is a sacred life? Those are very loaded words. What is a pure life? And in Buddhism, there can only be pure when there is non-pure, impurity. There can only be love when there is hate. There can only be peace when there is war. There can only be happiness when there is suffering. So no matter how hard we're going to try to cut off and reject our sexual desires, it's the more we are pushing ourselves away from reality. But when we look deeply into sexual energy, we can start to understand where it comes from, to befriend it. We manifested in the earlier days because of two bodies intimately coming together. Now science has evolved, and we have other ways of conceiving. donating sperm, and then being able to inject, so on and so on. But maybe for many of us, we manifested from the condition of two intimate bodies coming together. And so when that manifested, already in our non-existing space, we already manifested in the desire of these bodies. And so therefore, we have desires. First and foremost is we have to accept that. Even as a monastic, we all have sexual energy. But sexual energy, it also comes from the creativeness of producing, of taking care of our lifeline, the human species, to reproduce, to keep our species here. So there is a creativity in sexual energy. Of us meditators, we have been able to see. So our practice is when sexual energy comes up. Just like how you can be mindful of your breath, you could be mindful of your desire and your energy that is arising. And the first practice is awareness, recognizing it, and my own practice is smiling with it. Hello, my sexual energy, what's up? And as a monk, I know my path. If I keep feeding it, it will become stronger. In the spiritual life, we do speak about intimacy. We have 3 intimacy that we also train in. The first one is physical intimacy. And maybe when you hear physical intimacy, you may think of sex, or you may think of an embrace. But physical intimacy is learning to be friends with each other, learning to be humans with each other. Sitting beside someone who is very peaceful, who is very aligned, you can be in touch and be embodied by that person's whole presence. And there's a deep intimacy there. Us monastic, you may think that we have cut off love, but actually becoming a monk is to learn to love even deeper. And our love is not only committed to one person, our love has to be expansive to the whole, first of all, the whole community. And this is a lifetime journey. Like the monks alone, we're like 50-something monastics, 50-something brothers, 70-something sisters. And I have to train to see them as a part of me. That sounds very idealistic. It's very poetic. And in reality, there are those, I see them, I like this person. And there are those I see, we don't vibe. I don't really like this person. And it's very natural. It just manifests. And my practice is to see, that is still just a perception. Why don't I like this person? And I have to unlearn that. I have to expand my mind, expand my heart. And it's very difficult, but that is a commitment. And I have deep friendship in this community where I feel very intimate with my brothers and sisters. If anything, we don't marry one person in this community. We marry a whole body. And their happiness is my happiness. Their suffering is my suffering. That is very true. Every day in this community, especially now as an elder brother, I embrace not only my emotions, but many emotions in this beloved community. Just before the wake-up retreat, I received a letter from a brother informing that he will leave the community. And he will leave in September. This is his one last offering as a monk in this community, in this high seasons of offering. And a part of me, I have to I have to understand, I have to express my love, and I'm learning to accept his decision. And there's a part of me that this is very painful. This is a breakup. This is a goodbye. And then all of my stories come up. Are we not good enough? Did we do something wrong? Why are these young monks not staying? Is it because Thai is not here? And the podcast in here goes on and on and on and on and on. And I have to come back. I don't want to listen to this. I want to listen to my brother that is in front of me. And to hear him. And to understand him. I really want to say, please don't go. You're young and naive. The decision you're making is based on just your emotions and your youth right now. You don't see it yet. But if I say that, I feel like I'm entrapping the person. I want to, because the practice has to be a space that all of us, we want to come into, and we want to do it. We're not being forced to do it. And I said, okay, I've received your letter, I've received your formal sharing, but we still have 2 months. Let's say that I have approved your goodbye, your breakup with us. But live deeply this moment, and just to check in, is this still true by mid-September? And if by mid-September it is still true, my love is to understand you, and I will support you. I will support you leaving. And I'm in a position where I'm the one that they always tell, so I have to give permission. And as a part of me, it's very painful, because it touches a lot of inferiority in me. We're failing. This love is failing. This community is failing. And my practice of love, my practice of true love, is to come home and to see that each and every one of us has a journey. And maybe he needs to leave to see and to deepen his own spiritual journey within. And as a human being, I could feel sad. As a monk, as a practitioner, you have to grieve these moments. So in this retreat, I've been grieving him. And I still see him offering fully in the retreat. And I also see a part of him also grieving the departure, because that departure is not easy. So all of this love, they're all energies. So desire is a huge source of energy. Sexual energy is an energy. And the Zen teachers would say, when this energy arises, learn to channel this energy into creativity, into empowering. Why in the Zen tradition do we have so many forms of artistic practice? It's because we're channeling the sexual energy into creativity. The Zen gardens, calligraphy, archery, martial arts, dance, so on and so forth. Sexual energy is an energy to offer. You want to give it out. Our teacher, he teaches the monks this. Sisters, please forgive me. It's like when sexual energy is like, don't lay in bed. Get up. Get out. That's your practice. Your habit energy is start rewinding in the mind all those sexual, whether it's your own experience or it is the things that you have watched, what you've heard, what you've felt. And now the practice is, as a monastic, I know that I can channel this energy. And the first practice is push yourself out from that deeper desire that is pulling you into a practice, masturbation. And we know that this energy, we can shift it. We can, it's like a Tai Chi master when a big force comes. You receive it and you're gonna channel it outwards. So this is the training that we do. Not saying that all of those creative arts only come from sexual desires and energy. Calligraphy is a deep practice of letting go. So we see musicians, right? We see artists. A lot of their creativities come from suffering, comes from love, comes from energies. So for us as practitioners, we identify feelings as energy. And the meditator is the warrior within us to embrace those feelings. The meditator also has the artistic side. Where can I channel this energy? Whether it is in my own walking, my own body, my own practice of calligraphy, my own artistic sides, just writing. And there's many ways, and each and every one of us, we have to find our containers where we can generate these energies towards. Anger is one. When I'm angry, I grew up as a very violent person. Very violent. Not only just in my own family, but as a Vietnamese. We have a lot of injustice that we have faced. There's a lot of war that we've been through. Even the Vietnamese, we have committed genocide to the whole Champa community in the central. We took over. We annihilated a whole culture. So all of that ancestral heritage, all of the ugliness, I have it all in me. And they are energies. They're all energies. And as a practitioner, like Brother Spirit said, when they're activated and triggered, what does it mean to be in freedom? Freedom is to see these triggers, to see these energies, to befriend them, to acknowledge them, to not push them away and saying, you are me. Where do you come from? As a monastic for 24 years, I don't think that I have been watering those seeds. But nevertheless, they are still very profound. And in this time, a lot of those seeds were activated. And I have to go to my own body, because my body is the temple of all of these sacred feelings. Even a violent feeling, when embraced with mindfulness and transformed, it becomes very sacred. And I get to identify where they get generated, what are my triggers, and I learn from the triggers. And I get to see in my own mindfulness, what is my ability of embracing this. Some of it, I was so scared. And I said, you're deep. Go back in the basement. I'll take care of you later. As a practitioner, we have to know our capacity. We have to know our limits. When we practice the spiritual path, we may think that it's a pill to get better. Mindfulness is not a pill. Mindfulness and the spiritual practice is not about coming to one retreat and then leaving the retreat as a different person. And it's a very dangerous loophole to keep comparing ourselves to yesterday, to the other retreats. Because this is the present moment. And in the present moment, there are so many other conditions that are around us. But what we could be mindful and measure is, what is my ability of understanding this moment inside of me? Calling it by its true name. So when sexual energy is there, we call it by its true name. Don't lie to yourself. When we talk about the second training about, was it the second one? The fourth mindful speech about lying and saying untruthful things. I discovered that I say more untruthful things to myself to find excuses than I do to other people. And a part of the practice, and what is difficult of the practice, is having the courage to see what are the things that are not nurturing ourselves anymore, and to step into that new freedom. If I know that I stay in bed, and now I have a telephone, we all have telephone, it's just a few buttons away, a few words away from going deep into the realm of deep desire, and that is Mara. And we have a choice. When you're mindful, you have a choice. If the habit is strong and it grips us, we're going to do exactly the things that we know will make us feel very empty and lonely. But if you are the warrior in the mindfulness trainings, you said, hello, my sexual desire. And sexual desire comes with loneliness. Hello, my loneliness. What other feelings come with sexual desire? That is for us to explore. For me, it's also the feeling of missing out, not knowing. And I get to see it all, and I get to be honest with it, that there's that desire there. And then the more I'm able to break free from these chains of habits, I touch more freedom every day. And so when sexual energy comes up, I can say, I know exactly what to do. Let's go do some martial arts right now. Let's go do some push-ups. Let's do some gardening. Let's start writing. Let's go take refuge in nature. This is the practice. This is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just on the cushion. Mindfulness is about channeling. And the more we are able to practice this, we don't become trapped by these energies. We don't become trapped by these cycles of habits. And you know what? You get an opportunity to transform for your ancestors. I have a lot of fear. I have a lot of fear as a human being. In this week, in the BIPOC group that I was facilitating, we all touch our inferiority complex of living in a white world, when it meant that we cannot be heard, when we're being discriminated. I was in middle school, and they keep putting me in ESL class. I promise you I can sing the ABCs better than some of these other kids. But it's a system of discrimination. It's a system of judgment. And these things have created me the feeling of less than. I'll always be less than, because I have a different skin color. I have a different attitude. I have a different smell to the food that I bring to lunch. And when I practice, the scary thing is meeting it within my own self, meeting it within this beloved community. And the courage of the Dharma is to tell you, wake up. You're a new person now. You have the agency to be a true Vietnamese, to be a true monk, to be a person that embraces many culture. You know, one time Thai asked us young monastics, he called all of us North Americans and Europeans that grew up in the West. He asked us, "Are you Vietnamese?" And one of them said, "Yes, Thai." He said, "Yeah, but you can't read and write in Vietnamese." Then he asked, "And are you Westerner? Are you a Westerner?" And I identified more in my early day as a Westerner. I said, "Yes, Thai." He said, "Yeah, but you're yellow." This is the master doing some deep, deep tissue massage. And we're like, "What do we say?" And then one of them, "Don't say anything. When the Zen master asks you a question, zip it." But Thai always wants to show us a way. When he shows us a problem, he wants to show us a way. He said, "When I look at you, I see you have a lot of opportunities. You could be a great bridge. You can embrace the upbringing that you had in the Western culture. You can learn from them. Why not? Why not today eat pizza, tomorrow eat fried rice, the next day eat some lasagna? Why do we have to think we're just going to eat pho all day? Or why do we think we're just going to eat oatmeal all day?" You have an opportunity. You, causes and condition, you grew up there. And then look deep. You are Vietnamese. Learn to see it. Start to accept it. And start to see the beauty of your heritage. And start to learn about it. Be curious about it. Unlearn what you've heard. And I've heard many things about Vietnam. And because as a Vietnamese, I always felt inferior as a Vietnamese. And therefore, I pushed myself to be different. In that moment, Thai planted a very deep seed in me. And many of us, we took it differently. Some's like, "I'm going to learn Vietnamese so I can prove it to Thai." And for me, in this year, when we say staying true to, it's true to what? Freedom of what? There's always the path that we're asking a question, and we have to identify what is it that I want to stay true to. And this year, because of my own journey that I went through, I had an opportunity to go to the Pacifics, be in touch with the islanders, and seeing their beauty of how they hold their heritage, and not letting anybody take away their cultures. Even though they have been colonized, they have even seen their own religion as Christianity, which was very shocking for me. I didn't know that. But then still seeing them, how they do the ceremonies when they welcome people, unapologetically. This is our culture. You are a guest, and we welcome you into our culture. And I was starting to feel ashamed when I was in touch with that. Because so many times I pushed my culture aside. So my own arriving deeper every year after 20-something years as a monk, and there's still some deep work inside of me. And I shared this to my BIPOC family yesterday. I'm not there yet, but I've made a vow. One of the truths that I can transform and I can own up to is I can learn to decolonize my own mind. The way I think, some of the words I've chosen to use, the way that I will learn to educate myself and unlearn and help others educate themselves. In the science retreat, we had a panel here, and one of the panelists said something very beautiful. I don't remember what she said, and she was of Asian heritage. And then it was a Q&A. And then one of the audience in the community, which was a white man, said, I love that. I love what you said. Can I steal that? My whole body reacted. And I just wanted to shout, don't say steal, can I receive that? Can I receive that transmission? And the first reaction, I'm going to steal that. Whew. We got some deep work, my friends. And a part of me is owning up to my heritage and being true to all the feelings that I have. So being true as a practice is not denying all of the other beauties that are around us, but seeing what it is that supports our opening our hearts and our acceptance of ourselves, so that we can continue to walk in our own footsteps, to enter into a space with full dignity of who you are in that moment. There's many moments we may step into a space and you're not going to feel like you belong. And this, it doesn't matter what skin color we are. And our practice of coming home to the island within us, that is the key right there. The Buddha said, all of us, we have a true home. We have our island of mindfulness. We have our island of feelings, of emotions, of presence. We come home to that and we listen to our body. What is the surrounding making me fearful of? Where are the reaction? Is it my shoulders? Is it my jawline? Is it my fist? Each one of us will have its own reactive energy. And when we speak about coming home to the body, is identifying, seeing it, and saying, it's okay. I know you're scared, but you don't have to be scared. And you come back to your breathing. And you can affirm yourself of who you are by just your own presence. There was a day I was in a business setting. I don't know how I've got myself there, but we were at a business conference. And it was 500 executive. It wasn't the meditation hall vibes. It was purple lights, a live band playing. And they put the monastic right in the center. And then suddenly, all the light goes. And I got so scared. I felt so small. And I felt so out of place. I'm bald and brown. And everybody is like suit up, makeup up. I'm like, what am I doing here? What the heck? And all of the fear, all of the butterflies were coming up. And then we have to identify what is the fear that is there. And that fear was, you're feeling inferior because you're in this space that majority are all white people. And then I go, but breathing in, I have something to offer. I'm going to offer a Dharma. I'm going to offer all of them how they can arrive into their own body so that they can feel all of their sensation and they can relax all of the running after fame and success so that they can just touch that. And when I touch that insight that I have something to offer, I was free. I was free from all of the perceptions and the judgment that I'm giving myself. And yeah, sure, some were giving it in. The way they were looking at me, like, why is a monk here? But true freedom is, you know why I'm here? Because I'm going to teach you how to breathe. No, true freedom is none of those projections. They come in and we have to tai chi it out. We have to let it out. We can't let those projections define us who we are in these moments. And I'm saying this, it sounds easy, but it's real mindfulness. It's real awareness of everything happening in that moment. And so the more we're able to practice this, our presence become more true to ourselves. Then you start to enter into your own true freedom of what it means for you in this moment. The present moment is very cliche, but it really is the appointment of life for you to meet yourself, where you can be true to yourself, where you can see all of the maras, all of the fears that come up, the desires that pushes you away from yourself, and you reclaim your agency. You reclaim your own truths. And a part of me, sister, I only have 1 hour, so I gotta give it. I have to finish at 11. I lost my train of thought. I'm staying true to myself. I totally lost my train of thought. Wow. What was I saying? Huh? A part of me. Reclaiming agency. Somewhere there. I'm going to reclaim my agency. Commitment. When we speak about commitment, vows are important. Vows as in a commitment that we give to ourselves. Like this morning, the 5 mindfulness training, it's a very beautiful ceremony where we all can see that we're not only making this commitment alone, but we're making it with so many, and there are those bearing witness to this moment. But a vow is very impermanent. The thought that we have in this moment can be buried away when we leave this retreat, when we leave this environment, when we leave this friendship. So in order to stay true to our commitment, we have to condition it. We have to condition ourselves in a way that we can be reminded of the vows we make. For example, if you've received the 5 mindfulness trainings and you receive the certificate, I see a friend having in her pocket right here. I found out my certificate after I received it from Plum Village. At a point, it ended up in the bookshelf, and I never saw it again. And then I remember hearing Brother Phap saying, don't put those certificates in the bookshelf. Leave it somewhere so you can see. So you can remind yourself. So mindfulness, the mindful path, is a lot about remembering. It's about reminding yourself of the feelings of freedom, the feeling of practice. That's why calligraphies play a part. You see the words breathe, and you check, did I breathe today? Or being in a community, you see someone who is walking very joyfully with freedom, and it mirrors back, and you're like, oh, I'm in a deep rush right now. Can I step into that freedom? So for us to practice commitment, we have to condition ourselves to be reminded of the vows we make. Even as a monastic, not only do we have 5, we have hundreds of precepts. But that vow, the vow that I've touched for myself, is by being in action, by being engaged. Like when I do this retreat with all of you and with the larger community, I'm not gonna lie, it's exhausting. But it gives me so much meaning. It tells me why I am practicing day in, day out. It tells me why I'm still a monk. It's actually the lay people that saved my monastic life. There was a year I really wanted to leave the monastic life. I was going through a very deep crisis. And when you're in this space like this Sangha, you get labeled, you get known as this kind of brother. So that label becomes your whole identity. And then it's very scary to suffer in the community, because then it looks like I'm failing as a practitioner. And when I was in my deep crisis, I was beating myself up every day. I was telling myself I'm not good enough, I don't belong. And I was thinking of, maybe it's time to give up this path. If you practice for 17 years now, and you still have these feelings, and you still feel like you're worthless, maybe give something else a different try. And that's a very dark place to be in. And even with all of my years of practice, I couldn't remind myself to ask for help. And it causes and condition. I did want help, I didn't know how to say it. And there was a moment, we were in the Lunar New Year, and it's a very big celebration within our Sangha here. And there was so much joy, but I was feeling so joyless. Is that a word, joyless? Okay. And I was like, what is wrong with me? We're all living in the same moment, but there are those that are so happy. There are those that are growing, transforming, and here I am in a dark pit. And that was a moment of just embracing that truth. And when I held that truth, I felt so small. I ran back to my room. And I sat there. And I started to speak to my own loneliness. And I started to speak to it as it is me, not as it is something I'm trying to fix. I'm speaking to it as it is me. A lot of times we may think all of these feelings and emotions are us to fix. But when I started to see it, you are me. I have a very different relationship to it. I start to be much more tender. And I start to see my voices of the worthless intention. I said, don't say that, that's not kind. You would never say that to a sibling out there. Why are you saying that to yourself? And suddenly, it gave me the voice to ask for help. And when I asked for help from the community, the Sangha was waiting, because I've closed my heart. Many siblings has asked, Brother Phap, would you like some tea? And I said, no, I'm too busy. And we make excuses, and we push us away from the help that we need. But then when I finally asked for help, not only was the help coming from outside, but the help inside started to have a space to arise, because I am letting go of the shield, so then to give the space of support to be there. Tai has said that letting go is a power. And you have to let go of the shield in order for the support we want to be there. But if you keep giving excuses, I kept giving excuses, then we're not giving that up, then how can the help enter in? And because I was feeling very inferior in the monastic community, because I was already abbot by then, and to say that I need help, I couldn't accept myself. And I skillfully said, dear community, can you give me 2.5 months out of the Sangha? I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home to retreat. I don't go to a retreat to retreat. I'm going to go home to retreat. But I knew my family is a support, but not the right support at that moment. And I was using the family as a skillful excuse. And I went to 2 friends that I met in Plum Village that helped me just see me who I am. And it was the lay community, 2 of these friends. They said, Phap, we know you're a monk, but with us you don't need to be a monk. That means you don't have to show up like a monk with us. Just be who you are. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to cuss, cuss. If you need to ask yourself all these difficult questions that you don't dare ask within your own brothers and sisters, ask, hey, we're not going to judge you. I'm not a monastic. I don't even know what to judge. That's what one of my friends said. And that was very kind. And that was the moment I started to be able to reflect in my life. And I did the homework. I did a bird's eye view of my life. And the friend asked me, Brother Phap, I'm just going to speak what your teacher said, but maybe in a different language. What is your deepest, not aspiration, what is your deepest desire, brother? And you got to be true to it. Do you want a girlfriend? Do you want to own a house? Do you want to own a car? Because you never own anything in your whole life. What is it that you want? Let's name them. Let's give it a shot. Like I said, I don't know what to judge about monastics. So tell me about it. And then he said, and let's go deeper after that homework. When you die, what do you want to be remembered for? And what would make your heart sing? And he said, don't answer that one now. Give it a few days. And so I did this practice of bird's eye view, and I added more to that practice. And I was asking myself, some of Thay's own practice that he gave us, what are the conditions of happiness that I have right now? What are my fears? Because fear plays a very big part in us not wanting to be where we are. But what is the fear that is there? And when I did this homework, and when I particularly went to the deepest desires, all of my happiness belongs in this robe. All of my joy and all of where it gives me source of energy, it belongs in this robe. So I had an answer, which is to be a monk. And there was a deep freedom in that moment of realizing that. Again, refreshing myself, I began anew with myself. Then I came back to the monastery. I came home first, spent lovely time. Came back to the monastery. And let me tell you, the first 3 months was a battle every day. I wanted to be a monk, but my present moment wanted to run away. But I made a commitment with my blood sister. And I told her, Kwan, you're one of my greatest supporters on this path. And I'm going to tell you this. Don't judge me. I'm not sure about this life. I just want you to bear witness to that. But I'm going to go back to Plum. I'm going to give it 120% of my life. And after 6 months, if I still want to leave, we'll start talking about it. But I have to give it an opportunity again. I have to bathe myself in the commitment that I was feeling. Right? It's an intellectual thing, it's an ideal. I want to be a monk. I want to be practitioners. I want to be a happy person. But then when it comes to practice, your inner world has different stories. Every sitting meditation when I came back to Plum Village, my mind was saying, get the hell out of here. What are you doing? Run after the desires out there. And it was so tiring. I was leaking so much energy. And one day, in sitting meditation, it was in silent. Nobody knows. I am fighting my own mind. I'm like, shut up. Sit there, breathe with me. I'm gonna tame you. Every time that you say you want to run away, put your leg back here, come back, breathe. And I did that non-stop, every session. And the more you do it, the more it weakens. Because it's getting re-educated, it's getting relearned of what it means to be, not what it means to think, what it means to be. So the practice can be very grounding, and you have to be committed. Commitment is not a word, it's not something you sign, it is an action. It is an action that we apply, that we do. One of the right diligence in the Eight Noble Path of the practice, it is about commitment. It's about diligently watering the good seeds inside of us. That means by our daily life, what we say, what we eat, what we see, what we do, how we interact with. We have to identify what nurtures the seeds in us for us to reach our potential. We could still stay with suffering, and I have friends, I have loved ones that will die with their suffering. Even though I pointed out, this is suffering. Until you let this go, you won't be free from this. And one of my close loved ones said, but if I let that go, who am I then? It becomes an identity. It becomes a safe space. And I had my own safe space. I had my own titles that my mind created. And freedom is a deep practice of every year. What is the new stepping into freedom that you can be? Who are you today? In this moment, can you be fully authentic? I hope I am doing my best to be very authentic with all of you. And that is a freedom that when I was younger, I was very scared of. And so I can step into that freedom, and I can share that so that I can honor my own self. So when we speak about commitment, please remember it is like daily nutriment. It is something that we have to nourish. If we forget, this is why we do retreats. I'm not trying to advertise, but come back. Come back just to be reminded. Come back to refine ourselves, to discover again and again and again. Another word for mindfulness is recollection, reminding ourselves to recollect what it is that we are doing here, what it is that we are aspiring to offer. When my practice with my parents, with love, I think my biggest mistake when I went home as a monk was I was trying to be a monk at home. That was the biggest mistake. Don't be a practitioner at home. Don't show it off, that's what I mean. And because I was coming home as a monk, I'm like, Mom, Dad, we're gonna have happiness, we're gonna have moments of togetherness, we're gonna sit in silence, we're gonna do walking meditation. Come home, television is on, I turn it off, somebody turns it on. And all, right, like you're building this fantasy. And you're only setting up for failure. And I had to learn it the hard way, so I hope, especially the young ones, don't do what I did. Have this insight. This insight became very true to me. no matter who we become, to our parents, we always can be their children. That's one reality. That's one truth. Even though you tell Mom, I'm a grown-up. Sure you are. Sure you are. Even in this community, sometimes they're like, yeah, but you were that baby monk. Yeah, I'm kind of like 37 now. I'm not that young anymore. But in the relationship with our family, it's a practice. Love is also a practice of just accepting. It's just accepting. My dad went through very deep PTSD, and I came home for 2 months, and he didn't even understand what trauma was. And he said, Phapu, I'm not crazy. Don't say I have trauma. He said, they don't understand what that means, right? You have to be very gentle. No, Dad, the list says you have trauma. No. I said, oh, Dad, it's okay. I'm going to be home. And I'm going to learn to just see you first. And when I came home, I asked one of my friends who's a therapist, what's the best way to support somebody who's very depressed and doesn't know? I said the first thing is that they are going to try to justify themselves, and they're going to try to push your love away, push your care away. So what you could offer to your father is just your presence of seeing him exactly as he is, as someone who's suffering. Don't try to see the better father. Because I had stories of my dad. He was my hero. He was somebody who was courageous, went on the boat, who was fearless in his youth. But in this moment, he's not that person. And we have to accept that person in the here and now. And when you accept, it shows in your way of being with them. And every time I was judging my father, I breathed with my judgment. I said, my dad is suffering. Just embrace his suffering. And my friend said, if he allows you, put your hand, a human touch can be very healing, just to show that you are there. And all of this have to be done very skillfully. You have to be very mindful in the moment. And you also have to learn to protect yourself also. When it becomes too toxic, when it becomes too negative, we also have to care for ourselves. We have to step out a little bit in order to protect the person from doing harmful actions. And sometimes it looks like we're running away. And this is a response, it's not an answer, because every situation is very different. And if my father, I already committed, if my father was ever to be very violent, I would enact. I would come in. I would come in to hold himself from harming himself or harming others. And I would do it with the intention of love. In Plum Village, there was once a case, somebody lost their mental stability here. And they went into a deep mental crisis in that moment. And he became very violent in the monastery, threatening to him and threatening to us. And there was a moment he broke one of the calligraphy frames, and one of his loved ones came to help, but she triggered him more. He said, if you come closer, I'll kill you. And in the monastery, a group of brothers, we were all very present. We took care of her. We said, come out. You're not watering the right seeds in him right now. We didn't use that language, but that was what we were saying, like, you gotta step out. And one of our brother, very courageously, stepped in front of him as he's holding one of the broken piece of glass. He said, "What? You are harming yourself. You are harming yourself. Let that go. Let that go." And the way he did it, though, wasn't confronting him, was just helping him be aware of what was happening. And the moment he let that go, we all jumped in. I put my knee on his chest, and the other brothers put their body on his legs. And we had to stabilize him so he won't enact bad karma, bad actions. And I can share with you that in that moment, I was so scared, but my source of energy was love, because I don't want this person to harm himself. So compassion and understanding and love, don't think of it as just staying behind, sending loving light. No, sometimes you got to get in there. And the way that we held him, and one of our brothers started to do guided meditation for him. And you can see, even though in the present moment his mental state was very different, but his store consciousness was receiving it, and his body was relaxing. Long story short, the police came, and so on. Medical teams came, and so on. But there are moments in violent situation, abuses, if there is the ability to enact and to engage, it is still non-violent, but it's to help that person to not be more violent. And all of that moment, I remember it physically in my body. Everything that we were doing was very non-violent, even though it can look like it was violent. And in that moment, what we're carrying in our heart is the training. So being with loved ones, especially, the hardest, especially with family, is to accept. That's the hardest part. And in what the teachings can tell you is that your families, many of them, are also a part of you. I have an auntie who's very Buddhist, and she hates Plum Village. Hates Plum Village. It's like none of this mindfulness stuff. I want to pray. I want to go to the Pure Land when I die. And the first 3 times I came out like, no, auntie, it's bigger than that. And when I just met her where she's at, it's like, let's talk about the Pure Land. What you want to do in the Pure Land, auntie? And you see her eyes glow. Let me tell you about the Pure Land. And just meet them where they are at. And there's a compassion there. Of course, our intellect's like, no, that's just wishful thinking. But we all have different journeys, right? We all have different truths. And there's many traditions. There's one thing that I was able to say for myself, and it's been very liberating. One is, there are so many suffering of my loved ones that I know in this lifetime they will not transform. And I've accepted that. But that doesn't mean that they are lesser than a human being. And then when I go deeper, because gratitude is a source of love, and I still want to have gratitude. My parents already sacrificed their whole life. My dad gambled his life on the boat. My mother gave up everything that she was in Vietnam and became an immigrant. So it's okay that she suffered. It's okay that she has still some unskillfulness. She's given me quite a lot. So I want to own what they have given me, accept who they are, and the sufferings that they will not transform. And I can see some of that deep in me. and I say, Mommy, Daddy, I got you. I'll transform that for you. And I will transform that for you, not just for the past, also for the future. My nephews, my cousins, my grand-nephews in the future. I want to transform all this so I don't hand it to them. I know that they're going to have their own set of suffering with society and life. But if there are some things that I can do for the next generation, is I want to be responsible for the sufferings that I could identify. And I want to do some of the work there so that I don't transmit that to them. That is the practice of the 3 times, where the present embraces the past, as well as it is transforming and building the future. Bringing children into this earth. I don't have biological. If I remain as a monk, which I vow to do, I won't have biological children. But it doesn't mean I don't have children. Just recently, in the summer retreat, I don't know how many kids we hosted in Plum Village. Probably over 300 kids in the span of 3 weeks. And each child that I got to interact with, there's a part of me that I see them as my future. I see them as future parents, future change maker, future teachers, future maybe police officers, maybe a few future monastic. You never know. But I can see them, just by being with them, I am transmitting something to them. And I see, and I know that kids, children, they continue all of us. And in the mindfulness trainings, and particularly in the 14 mindfulness trainings, it says when we want to bring a child into this earth, we have to spend a little bit of time to meditate. How we will become a parent. How we will embrace them. How we will learn to love them. So I can't give you the answer. I'm not going to say yes, have kids, or no, don't have kids. But I know kids will manifest, and there are hundreds and thousands and millions of children here. Those that really need love, that don't know what love is. And can we offer already the existing children that are on this earth? And if you could, I know you could become a parent. And becoming a parent is your own, is a journey in itself. It's a deep, deep, loving journey. But one practice, maybe for us young ones, is to see how we can interbe with the children that are already existing. We need a lot of volunteers for summer. If you want to be a parent, you got 20 kids under your wings. Every summer, I enter into parent mode with the kids. They're loud, they're rowdy, they're building fortress out of our sacred mats. They're throwing cushions as bombs. And there was an insight. I could be angry at them, but is the kid less sacred than a cushion and a mat? And when I arrived there, the way I looked at them, I'm like, dude, if I was them, I'd be doing exactly the same thing. And then we can learn to guide. And I went and I guide. Sometimes they were messing with the bell. I would went up to them. It's like, how do you feel if I keep coming and hitting your head? The bell is like the monastic's head. Every time you invite it, we all have to stop. So what if I came to you and I kept banging your head? How would that feel? They got the message. They got the message. There's so many ways of transmitting, of of giving, to educate, to show love. And one of our practice is when we want to guide, we want to generate compassion and love. And then we guide. Let me tell you a story. I was Thai's attendant, and we were in a big hall, not this one, but in Upper Hamlet. And I have a seed of being very good, being a perfectionist. After the lunch, the 2 doors was crowded with people. And I wanted to show off my power. As an attendant, I'm going to open the path for Thai. So I started to sprint. And suddenly, I feel this yank. And I got really annoyed. I'm like, dude, I'm Thai's attendant. And I turned around, it was Thai. He pulled me back. I was so embarrassed. I was so shamed, like so much shame was there. Because then Thai looked at me and he's like, don't do anything. And then not only that, but the community saw that. So then we walked the walk of shame. And so I'm walking behind Thai. We arrive at the door. Naturally, the path just opened. I'm like, you idiot. And then the worst part was then from the meditation hall to his room, it's not close. It's not too far. So I'm just walking behind Thai. I'm like, oh, feeling horrible. Like this is my last day of his attendant. I'm about to get canceled. So I do this walk of shame. And then we arrive at the door at the hut. And before going in, he turns around. He goes, Phap, in the Sangha, Thai doesn't want to be treated as a special person. Thai is a drop of water in this river. Just let the river flow. That's all he said. And then he opened the door and we went in. You see how skillful that is? He was aware of how shameful I was and how much fear I had. He could have said, don't ever do that again. That was very unmindful. Why would you do that? Why? Da, 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 da. I mean, that's me creating those stories, right? But Thai just said, in the Sangha, you don't need to make me special. I'm just a drop of water in this river. Just let the river flow. And I understood exactly what he meant. And that was a kind of education, a kind of care, a kind of guidance in that moment. When I became older, he gave me some harsh teaching. We have to be mindful of every situation, every moment. That was when I was only 15 years old. So if he was harsh with me, that would become a trauma. That would become a new fear. And then as I grew older, he knew I could receive some deeper guidance, some stronger, some calling out of my unmindful actions. And then the teachings come. So a teacher, a parent, an elder brother, a friend, we can offer guidance for one another. We can remind, support one another. We have to be very mindful of the moments of that person's space, that person's capacity. What is peace in an injustice world? I think this is a deep koan for our times, but I want to share one thing, maybe to help us also know that we are a stream of continuation. You know, even the Buddha himself, he was a prince of the kingdom of Kapilavastu, and he was being trained to become a king, to govern, to conquer. But he chose the monastic path, and he became a world-honored teacher. But even the Buddha himself couldn't save his own country from being taken over, and from his country being safe from injustice. Injustice is always going to be there. This is a reality that I've touched, that there's always going to be injustice on this earth. But the most important thing that each and every one as an individual is to see the interbeing of how we are the thread of all of this life, and what we can give out in our lifetime as an action of our mind, of our speech, of our body. We may see it as giving to others. Our teacher would use a candle's example. Our action radiates. But the radiation doesn't only go outside, the radiation also comes back to oneself. And every action goes out and comes inward. And what all of us we could commit to, and what we can honor what we see that we want to do to change, we do it in our best capacity. Because when it gives out, this action becomes timeless. These voices, these words, these hope becomes timeless. They get transmitted to the next generation. Like the words of the Buddha, they still exist today. The words of Thai still exist after his decease of his body. Your things that you've heard from other great beings. And we're all beings. So in the midst of darkness, let us be the candles, let us be the light to radiate wherever we can. That's the commitment we have to make. If we wait for a just world, it's very difficult to see. Sometimes I feel very hopeless. I just want to close the doors. I just want to go in the mountains and just take care of myself. I need a human detox. Like, I'm done. I'm done with humanity. And I'm sure all of us, we touch this and maybe more today. But the flame of the bodhicitta, the flame of the mind of love, is something that we all have touched in this retreat. We have to protect it. We have to create like a lamp, a glass barrier to protect it, to remind ourselves of the commitment that we would like to offer, the world that we want to see. And it's not just for the future. So I know sometimes the future is as a source of energy. Let's do it for the future. But in the future is the present. So we not are only doing it for the future, we are doing it for ourselves also. The hardest action is to, the hardest moment is to give up hope. There was a Q&A in America, and one of the teenagers asked our teacher, Thai, what was the most difficult time in your life, Thai? And Thai said the most difficult time was when he was feeling hopeless. And in his stories, he worked with many youth activists, and there was a particular village that the School of Youth and Social Service would go out and help rebuild after it was bombed. And then there was one particular village that after they rebuilt it, it got bombed again. And then the next village, it bombed again. They rebuilt it and it bombed it again. And by the third time, Thai was like, let's go back and rebuild it. And one of his students asked Thai the question, like, is it worth it, Thai? When we know the consequences of rebuilding it, it will be bombed again. He explained in that moment that question touched the deep seat of despair in him, because it didn't look like anything was ending, anything was coming to the close of ending the war. And he said he had to breathe very deeply. He had to come back to his mindful breathing. And he had to allow himself to feel the hopelessness that is there. See, he's not pushing it away. He's allowing that energy to be there. And in that moment of hopelessness, he had an insight. He said that our way of showing up is the action of hope. If we don't go, it means that everybody's giving up. So even if it will be bombed, just by showing up is giving humanity and those who are suffering, letting them know that we are here, that we see, we hear, and we are supporting them. So it comes back to how we can offer our presence. And there's many ways of offering our presence today. There's a physical show up. There's things that we can do to support a situation of injustice, and so on. So I think one reality that is dreadful but could be very helpful to not be in deep despair is that injustice is always going to be there in this earth. Because that is a truth of co-arising. When life is there, death is there. When happiness is there, suffering is there. When justice is there, injustice is there. When the light is there, darkness is there. These are realities that will always coexist according to the insights and the teachings of Buddhism. You cannot eliminate one and expect only one side to be there. And as a practitioner, we have to be free and accept and how to navigate. And just the last story I will tell about Thai. It's a very powerful one. I got to witness Thai's stroke. I got to witness him suffering from being paralyzed, from losing hope in his own body. There were days we would cry, especially when he was looking for his voice. As Thai was a speaker, he was a teacher, and suddenly he can't speak anymore. And I remember there were days Thai would go, ah, ah, ah. And you feel so powerless. What could you do? You can only be there and hope and show up to support. What was very unique though was when we sang the Plum Village songs, he could sing. And he can say every word. It was really strange. And later on we learned that we have neural pathways of melodies and music that it's so powerful. And after 1 year of trying to recover, trying to get back his mobility, Thai accepted. He said, no more doctors, no more therapy. Thai is gonna dwell happily in this body. I am paralyzed, yes. I can't speak, yes. But does that limit me from being present? No. Thai came back from the hospitals. He showed up in the Sangha. In the sitting meditation, he would show up. In the walking meditation, he would show up. And then we were giving retreats, and he would sit at the back to watch his young little minions give Dharma talks. So it's about how we see our realities. And Thai accepted being a human, none of us could escape old age. None of us could escape sickness. And when that moment comes, can you practice to accept it? And then you have so much freedom. And I remember the conversation because we had to ask Thai yes and no questions so Thai could nod or shake his head. And I said, Thai, you're telling us, because he kept pointing to the luggage to go home, because his left side he can move. And it was tough among all the assistants, because some of us wanted him to get better. Some of us were so attached to him as our teacher, like before. We had to do our own deep work of accepting the present moment. And I said, Thai, I told the attendants, let me ask the hard questions. I said, Thai, are you telling us that you don't want to see the doctors anymore? Thai, are you telling us that you are accepting your situation? And you want to go home? Thai said, And we have to listen. And we have to accept. And a part of me was crying because I want Thai to get better. But to understand and to love is to accept the present moment. And I remember that year we celebrated Christmas and New Year's, and Thai stayed up till midnight with us. And he's still in his capacity on the wheelchair, not being able to be mobile, always having assistant. But he was still able to be who he was. And I got to witness all this. And I got to see him so tender with his body. In the beginning, the right side. He gives talk about his right hand. He always asked the left hand, are you jealous of my right hand? Because my right hand wrote all the calligraphies, wrote all the poetries, wrote all the books. There was only one poem that he had a typewriter and he used a typewriter. So dear left hand, are you jealous of the right hand? So it was a teaching about non-discrimination. And then suddenly now the right hand is paralyzed. And we were back in Plum Village. And one day I was just attending and I was just standing behind him. And he was washing his hands. And there are other moments like he was a little bit harsher with like just trying to wake it up. But that day, after coming home, I saw him accepting his hand. He had to push out his hand because it gets very tight. And he was looking at his hand very tenderly. And a part of me, I felt like he was being very grateful to this hand for all the years that it has written the books, all of the translation it has been able to articulate, all of the calligraphies that are now a little bit everywhere. And then he took his hand, because his left side he can feel, and he put it on his cheek. And he put back his hand, and he just tenderly just massaged it. And I see Thai was in direct practice of coming back to mindfulness of the body, loving, accepting, embracing. You suffer. You cannot move now, and I will be the hand of care and love. So the power of love, my dear beloved community, is the ability of understanding, of accepting, of embracing. And the journey is a lifetime journey. Be kind to yourself. Remind yourself of the tenderness that you can offer to yourself. In today's world, we need more tenderness, especially for us men. I think the wrong view of leadership is masculinity, emotionalness. It's actually how we show up to be tender and to accept. From there, we find the strength and we find the courage to show up. Vulnerability is a very powerful source of love. There are those we will grieve. We have permission to grieve. We are allowed to suffer. We are allowed to embrace our suffering. And we are also allowed to be the light, to radiate the hope and the commitments that we aspire to offer to ourselves, our loved ones, our friends, and the world. And because of all of you keep coming to Plum Village, you give us a lot of hope. Without all of you, we wouldn't also have meaning of what we are doing. So very grateful for all of your presence, for all of your practice, for all of your commitments. And I wish you a wonderful, wonderful continuation as the retreat is coming to an end. But the retreat is not over. We still have many hours together. So please savor it. Because this moment is going to become a past. And it can become a very beautiful past. That is like a supplement of memories that we can be reminded of our togetherness, of the friendship that you've made, of the feelings that you've been able to re-feel, to relearn to feel again. So please savor these last hours together. And I trust that our paths will cross again. Thank you for being the light of mindfulness for yourself, your ancestors, and for the future.